What's your best the tables have turned moment? My neighbor, Carol, had a PhD in other people's business. Her problem was that she fabricated all her research. When I first moved in, she seemed nice enough, bringing over a plate of cookies that tasted faintly of dish soap. But then the questions started. That's a nice car. Can you really afford that on a writer's salary? Or you had a visitor late last night. Is everything okay at home? I tried to be polite, giving vague answers. That was my first mistake. With Carol, any blank space was an invitation for her to write fiction. The first rumor was that I was in massive credit card debt. My landlord called me, concerned, after Carol had a friendly chat with him by the mailboxes. Then she told the woman I was dating that she saw my ex-girlfriend leaving my house in tears. I hadn't spoken to my ex in 3 years. That relationship ended before it even began. The final straw was when I lost a freelance gig because Carol told another neighbor, who happened to work for the company I was pitching, that my house was a mess and I was probably a hoarder. It was a complete lie. My house is spotless, but the damage was done. The contract was worth $5,000. I realized she wasn't just a gossip, she was a saboteur. Arguing with her was pointless, she just twisted into another story. So I decided to play her game, but I was going to write the script. My plan was simple. I would become the most interesting and eventually least believable person in the neighborhood. I started small. I saw her watching me from her window as I did some gardening. I took a call on my cell phone, speaking loudly enough for her to hear. No, I can't talk now. The package is on its way. The eagle has landed. I said a bunch of nonsense spy movie cliches. The next day, my other neighbor asked if I was in the CIA. Phase 1 was a success. A week later, I upped the ante. I bought a bunch of cheap telescopes and tripods from a garage sale and set them up in my living room, all pointed at the sky. I left the curtains open just enough. Carol's rumor mill went into overdrive. I was an eccentric astronomer. I was searching for UFOs. I was tracking satellites for a foreign government. Each version was more dramatic than the last. The midpoint twist that solidified my strategy was when I overheard her telling the mailman that I was a disgraced NASA scientist who was fired for trying to communicate with aliens. Her imagination was my greatest weapon. I realized her ego wouldn't let her admit a story was fake. She had to be the one with the inside scoop. It was time for my masterpiece. I spent a weekend creating the ultimate bait. I bought a mannequin, dressed it in a cheap suit, and put a bag over its head. I dragged it out of my trunk in the middle of the night, making sure my own security camera, which I knew she hacked into the Wi-Fi for, was rolling. I hauled the body into my basement. I left the light on down there for the rest of the night. For 2 days, I acted erratically. I would dig a hole in my backyard and then fill it back in. I'd pace on my porch, talking to myself. I was giving her all the material she needed to write my story. The neighborhood block party was my grand finale. I knew Carol wouldn't be able to resist. I arrived with a calm smile and a bowl of potato salad. I could feel everyone staring at me. I mingled for about 20 minutes before Carol cornered a group of our neighbors near the barbecue. I edged closer, pretending to get a burger. Her voice was a loud, frantic whisper. He's done something terrible. There was a body. I saw it on his camera feed. He buried it in the yard. We have to call the police. People looked terrified. A few were already pulling out their phones. That was my cue. I walked over, a cheerful grin on my face. A body? Carol, what are you talking about? She pointed a shaking finger at me. I saw you dragged it into your basement. I started to laugh, a big, booming laugh. Oh my God, you mean Bartholomew? He's for my Halloween display. I'm building a whole haunted house thing in the basement. The neighbors looked confused. I pulled out my phone. Here, I've been taking pictures of the whole project. I showed them a photo I'd taken earlier of the mannequin sitting in a chair, a party hat on its head. Then another of me painting its face to look like a zombie. The tension in the air just evaporated. It was replaced with awkward silence as everyone stared at Carol. Someone snorted, then a quiet laugh. The woman who ended my relationship started it. Wait, she told me you were a secret agent. A man chimed in. She told me you were fired from NASA. One by one, the absurd stories came out, all tracing back to Carol, whose face had gone from triumphant to a deep, blotchy red. She didn't say a word, she just turned and practically ran back to her house. Now, whenever Carol starts a sentence with, "Did you hear?" people just smile and walk away.